Hey, friends, welcome to the Let's Get Gritty podcast with Dr. India White. I'm so thankful for all of you tuning in today. I'm so glad we get another chance to join together to talk about grit. With that said, I'm going to first give you guys some announcements. Uh, First things first, the Let's Get Gritty podcast with Dr. India White will be featured on Swain Girl Media Channel, hosted by Precious Swain. So keep on looking out for more details. We are also trying to get it on other outlets. So thanks for your support. Also, if you're wanting to be featured on the show, please send me an email of your photo and a bio to india.white.123@gmail.com and we will get you squared away. Next, if you're wanting to follow me on social media, you can follow me on Facebook. It's Miss India White. LinkedIn is The India White. Twitter is Indie Speak and Teach. Instagram is Indie238. And YouTube is India White 123. I also have uh, an Instagram or not Instagram, a Twitter for the work that I do as a math textbook author. That's I White BIL. If you're wanting to be, just big on math and textbooks and stuff, you can check that out. A shout out to Big Ideas. Also, please feel free to check out my website at www.india-white.com for books, blogs, and to schedule me for your next speaking or coaching event. I appreciate those that have worked with me, partnered with me in various ways. The calendar has been very busy and it's been very fun and exciting getting to work with each of you. Also, I wanted to just continue to remind you guys that no matter what, take grit with you. Thank you for your support. Never stop, no matter what. Wherever you are in life, don't settle. Don't feel like, oh, I've reached my peak. Maybe there's something beyond that. And so hopefully you'll get some type of encouragement from watching this show today. And I'm going to particularly focus on education students because we all know someone in our youth, or most of us know youth, and we know teachers or teachers watching. You're working with students every day. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about how can we not only use grit, but how can we also use other things, including like equity, to help students succeed in education. First things first is we have to understand what uh, these terms are regarding equity and things like that. And so I am going to show you guys what the definition of equity was given to us by NCTM, the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, for one of their journal articles. It reads that equity, it's when you provide resources and accommodations as needed to promote access and attainment for all learners. Let me explain. So, for instance, if you are at the gym and you're trying to work out and you enter into the gym, the first thing you're looking for to make sure that your workout is going to be suitable for you. Usually you're wanting to know, do they have a towel? Like, do they have a gym towel so that you can wipe the sweat as you're going? You might look to see if they have water so that you're not going to die of like a stroke or a heart attack while you're getting those, getting on the treadmill or getting those sets done, right? Okay, so those are equitable practices that the gym has uh, adopted for anyone that goes to the gym. Further, the gym, it provides access to resources that you need to get you fit. So you have the 5 pound, bell things, bar things. Yes, 5 pounds is usually the ones that I use. Sometimes I try to use the 10 pound, but I'm not quite there for those little, arm things. Go Gators. Uh, you also have like the bigger ones for the guys and the people that go in and they're like, and they're like giving it their all. And we just look on like, wow, that's impressive. Not me, right? I can't do that, but they're there. Those big sets of like weights are there. They have all different types of weights for all different types of body types, right? They have benches. If you're wanting to, lay on the bench to work out, if you're wanting to use the bench to kind of prop your knee up to, then do some arm workouts, whatever you want to do. They have treadmills, they have the stair, thing. They have all different types of resources providing access so that you can work your body out in the capacity that you need to, because not every body is the same. Okay, so I'm telling you this because why does the gym do that? Because they're understanding that is an equitable practice they need to do to be successful in supporting all of their members. And just like a gym provides all these different supports for all these different body types, those that are dealing with, they might be on a fitness plan. Some people might be bodybuilders. Others, they might literally have just walked in the door the first day and they're glad to get 5 minutes on a treadmill, right? But the gym will meet you where you are. And that's exactly what equity does in a learning space. It meets that child where they are. So if that child, has a wheelchair, we're going to provide a ramp. If that child can't see, we're going to provide, different services, whether that's braille, if they're blind, or if they're needing like coloration sheets, because they're colorblind or something like that. We're going to do what we can to get that child through. So enough of that good stuff, because you can tell I'm very passionate about that. Now we're going to talk about grit. So grit, of course, Dr. Darkworth has coined this term. It is the passion and perseverance to attain long-term goals. It's when your long-term goals are met because you hung in there through passion and perseverance. So with that said, I'm going to now talk about the role of equity and the role of grit in a classroom. Okay. So of course, I'm coming from not just the math lens, but in general, but I am going to eventually hone in on math. And so the role of equity in the classroom is that it meets students where they are. Okay. Not only that, it builds stronger relationships between students and also between student teachers. And so this is imperative because whenever a student is coming to the class and then they first realize, wow, this teacher is meeting me where I am, those walls of anxiety come down, fear, imposter syndrome, all of those things start to dwindle because they start to realize, wow, this teacher really does care for me and they really care for my progress. And they're giving me a fair chance. I loved when I was teaching because there was a time when, like at the beginning of the year, I would survey my students and I would ask them, like, how do you feel about math? How do you feel about this class? And I would always ask them at the beginning of the year, what grade do you think you'll get in this class? Just to see what I was working with. You'd be amazed. Maybe 3 kids said an A. The majority of my kids said C's and D's. Some even said F's. And they stood by it because it just wasn't their thing. I mean, believe it or not, math is just not their thing, right? Might be Roblox, it might be playing a sport, or, some kids are actually into the arts and they're amazing at it. But I mean, you don't get any credit for, being an amazing singer, but that doesn't mean that they're not working on their craft on the side, right? They've got grit for that. But now we have to figure out how to give them grit for math or topics that they don't really care for. And so that's why I would do these surveys, is to figure out what is going on. So it was kind of like a diagnostic that I did to measure how they felt about math. And so as a result, I would then sit down with each of them and tell them, listen, in my class, you do have the ability, and I believe that you will get a great grade in this class. So all of you guys that said D's and F's, you might as well just kiss that goodbye. Some kids would then blurt out, hey, miss, I never, because, they call you miss. Hey, miss, I never got a passing grade on any math test. And I mean, you're talking kids now, middle school, high school. What do you say to them, right? So I would then talk with them more and say, well, I understand that you're coming, with that, but I know that there's hope and I know that there are greater options in this class. So hang in there. Don't, shoot yourself in the foot yet. Give me a chance, give math a chance, and we'll see what happens. And I would always give like quizzes, vocab quizzes in my math class. Yes, I would. And I would also give like, just like kind of reviewing the basic parts of the math, but not just basic, like the benchmarks and everything. And it was amazing because then the students would get like the first test back and they'd get 80s, 100s, and 90s. And they would just be so shocked. Like, I got an A in math. Like I got it. And they were shocked. And they had to eat their words of, oh, I never passed math. I never get that grade. And I would build their confidence. And so when I'm talking about building that, stronger relationship, building, Also enhancing classroom discussion and mathematical discourse, and then also building that sense of belonging. So doing what you can through equitable math practices, checking for understanding, getting to know your students, caring enough to meet them where they are, to provide them resources that they needed to get them to make them successful was key. And so these are some of the roles that you would do. So thanks for letting me share that story. But I like this here. And so these are some things that I just thought of and I said, we need to think and really sit down and figure out what is the role of equity in a classroom and see why it's so imperative for education and for our students today. And so there are some 4 different things that equity can provide for our students in the classroom. Now, I want to also talk to you guys about the role of grit because I'm a grit chick. I'm an equity chick and I'm a grit chick all day. And so the role of grit, which grit has changed so many lives today, and it is not done. I'm telling you, once you can cultivate an attitude of grit for kids and you can convince them that they've got what it takes and then they believe in themselves and then they take off with that dream that they have through grit, there's no stopping them. And they usually do so well and they go beyond. And so, look here. So, it says the role of grit in the classroom. So, it helps you get to the root of hopelessness as to why is that student wanting to give up or why did they give up? And that helps you to also take it to that next level of not just getting to know them, but them being vulnerable. Grit opens the box of vulnerability in the classroom. Again, it opens the box of vulnerability in the classroom. It provides a plug of hope for students to try again. Did you hear me? To try again. Some of them are like, they're throwing their pencil, they're done. They're like, screw this, I don't want to do this. It helps them to try again. It also enhances the motivation levels once the students, progress in that class. And it also helps students to really meet their goals. And like I said, not only meet their goals, go beyond their goals. And that is what it's all about is cultivating enough grit so that these students will go beyond their goals. And then they continue to check back with you and check back with you. And then, when they're not even your students anymore, and now they're, grown students in society, happy families, successful, and doing great things, especially in STEM areas, it's something to be, commended. So looking at that, this is so powerful. I think of so many of my students that have gone on to be phenomenal. I have one student who he probably would tune in, who just a good boy, just a good student, and he was about a B plus student, A student, and never gave me any problems. And wonderful kid, African American. And I remembered, he went off to school. Of course, I mean, we all, they go on and you keep going and you keep teaching. Well, circle back. This child is now a law enforcement officer. He's a pastor and he's an entrepreneur running his own business. And I'm giving you a shout out, sir. You know exactly who you are and so proud of you, the success that you have had. And I'm so thankful because he's stayed connected. We've stayed connected. And just to see the students to prevail and be successful is everything. I was thinking of this today, guys. I said, why do people sign up for education? The reward is so much more than fiscal. It's the reward you get of that emotional sense of, oh my gosh, I just helped a whole life. I helped a whole family. Like, I mean, this child that, I told you about this, he's now a grown man, an officer doing his thing. Um, I never knew that I had a police officer sitting in my classroom. Like it's awesome. I never knew I had a pastor, an entrepreneur. And I told you guys about the other student before who he became an accountant for the school board, and I've had so many others that have reported back and they've raised wonderful families, doing great things, and it's something to be proud of. And it's a beautiful, priceless feeling that you get. So, for all you teachers out there that you're making it happen, kudos, believe me. And the test of success in your life as an educator is when they come back. It is such a beautiful feeling when they come back to you and they say, Hey, miss, you taught me third grade, you taught me sixth grade, you taught me high school. And then they tell you what they're doing. I have ran out of, I have so many stories. I just, I don't have the time to tell you of the students that come back and say, Miss, thank you. Or the students that I'm still friends with now that interact with me on social media. Which I get a kick out of. I think it's great. So, it's worth cultivating grit and equity in a math classroom, in any classroom, because it's all about the students. It's all about helping them win, no matter what it takes. And so these are two wonderful elements that we have where we can help our students win. And so when you combine grit and equity together into a beautiful classroom recipe, what does it do in general? So it breaks down walls, the different walls that exist between students and teachers, or the walls of mental stress, anxiety, the walls of emotional anxiety. It breaks down any chances of bullying. Just, you eradicate that whenever you effectively implement equity and equitable practices in a math classroom. It also provides access for all students. So, students that, they might not have had access to technology or access to higher levels of math or have access to learning. I was thinking about this today too, guys. So you're providing access because you want your students to succeed. So I want to encourage you guys as educators in particular, do what you can to provide access, even if that's access to knowledge. So you as an educator, you're going to prepare lessons, right? You're going to be looking at the content. You have your math books, right? You know what's going on. It makes no sense as educators for us to hoard our knowledge and to hoard our lessons. Have you ever been in that space? Now, this is for some of you, maybe more seasoned teachers, where you've had a lesson and you're like, oh, this is so good, but I'm gonna wait till two two 2 weeks to teach that, and then you never get to it. Ugh, hate that feeling. Or you have a really good, now listen, teachers, this is access. You have a really good project idea that would really expose kids to benchmarks and standards and to the content and that beautiful language of math and just comes alive, right? You have all of this, but then you say, I don't think those kids can handle it. Or I don't think we'll have the time for that. Listen, pump your brakes. Please do not run to those conclusions anymore. I promise you can make it work. Get some grit and choose to implement those projects anyway. Because believe me, your students want to have fun in your class. You're competing now. You're competing against TikTok, Roblox, Snapchat, all this social media. So you might as well keep your game going, right? And give them something spicy to do in math. Talk to them, do a game about, you could do systems of equations and have the students find out, how much money would they need to save for college and a car, and, how much time would it take for them to pay that off, or do something about stocks and bonds and what does that look like? Give them, 20,000 and let them save up and find out, okay, how long will it take for you to, do the next thing that you had in plan to do? There's so many different things that you can do with math in a classroom, and you can so bring it back into reality. So if you have a really neat project, I hope that if you're watching this podcast and you're an educator, that you will find the opportunity to expose a nice, neat, and different opportunity to your students for access to math in a different way, to access in math in a way that brings it to reality and really spices it up for their lives. So don't hoard your lessons. Okay, so with that said, let's keep going. I just thought that was kind of funny. Um, you can also, through grit and equity combined, you can remove inequities in the classroom system. So I'm going to keep it real with you. Whenever you do have equitable practices and you ask your students, keep it real with me, guys. What's up? What's going on? What do you like about? I used to always do this, and I highly encourage you guys to do this. What do you like about this class so far? What do you not like about it? What do you like about my teaching? What do you not like about my teaching? Right? And let them express. Now, listen, sometimes, depending on the spice of your class and the personalities, sometimes they will be so real and blunt and they will tell you slap off in front of all the students. But guess what? That's a part of relationship building. Take it in, reflect, thank them for sharing, and then take note of it and then ask them, okay, what can I do different? And then see if that's, if that's a possibility. You can also do it as like providing like little like survey slips or whatever, or you could do like a little online doodle survey or something. You can have them write out to you on a paper or that way, and then you can collect that later, and you can do it anonymously so that students don't feel like they're going to get their grades docked if they tell you the truth. Because the main goal here is you're trying to break down the walls and, remove any inequities that would be in the classroom system. And who better to tell you than the students? We really got to give our students more of a voice. Um, and I know it's a scary thing, but any company, it's so many companies think about, I mean, if you went to Apple or Google or Nike, they're always sending surveys and, hey, tell us how we did. Hey, rate our service, blah, blah, blah. Give us some feedback. And so, just like that, we need the students to be able to tell us the same. And so that will help remove inequities further. We want to have grit and equity together because it provides a plan of action for academic success. So once you clear the clutter of all the inequities and the stuff, and you break down the walls, you've provided access, now you can come up with a plan to get your students through and to help them succeed. So the plan, if you're trying to put the plan first, you're putting the cart before the horse, right? So this is a wonderful way to remove that and to eliminate any possibilities of waste time or trying to implement the plan too soon and then it backfires and then the kid is no longer, you know, interested. There's no buy-in because we didn't figure out what the walls were that had it up. Can you imagine? And some of you have been through this, and this is one of the worst feelings in the world as an educator. So you've prepared this phenomenal lesson. You go to teach them. You're doing all your lesson plans. You're doing all your standards. You're doing everything. You've got your objective. You've got it all. You get to the class, and the kids are sitting there like arms folded, looking at you blank. They don't care. They don't like you. And you're super excited because you want to talk about systems or parent functions or composition of functions or absolute value functions, right? You want to talk to them, and this is all you're getting. They're not writing, they don't care. How much of that passion and content knowledge and your expertise as an educator is going to trickle down to them with that? Maybe 10%. Until we can break down the walls, we're going to have to do our best to make sure those walls are broken down and to make sure any clutter is cleared before we are proceeding with the plan of action. Once that plan of action to get your students caught up or to get your students to that next level of proficiency is established, then grit is the thing that's really going to help it to be pushed and to help your students to persevere. So with that said, I hope that this really has helped you. And I hope that you guys are passionate still about your students, not just about the math. And that's a whole nother thing of sometimes we can be so in love with the math that we're like, oh yeah, we have students, but no, it should be that when you leave your class, you leave your school and you're driving down the road, you're seeing their faces, you're thinking of them. You're wondering, how are they going to do? I wonder how they are. I wonder if everything's going to be okay. I wonder what I can do to make things better. Can I show them a little bit of mercy? What can I do different in my grading? Do I need to give them another chance to make that up? Do what we can to help our students to get by. And I promise you, when you do what's right for these babies, you'll be able to sleep at night. You'll have no worries. And you'll feel it. You'll know that you're doing it right. So with that said, I hope that this has helped you guys as we talked about, having grit and equity work together in the classroom. And at the end of the day, our main goal is we're trying to do our best to help all students succeed. So thanks so much for tuning in with me again at the Let's Get Gritty podcast. And again, reminders, you can find this on the Swain Girl Media channel. If you're wanting to follow me on social media, it's Facebook is Miss India White. LinkedIn is The India White. Twitter is Indie Speak and Teach. Instagram is Indie238. And YouTube is India White 123. And TikTok is Dr. India White. Sorry. You can check out my website at www.india-white.com for books, blogs, and to schedule me for your next event. I also have some grit merchandise on there. I don't really talk about that a lot. I should, but I've got grit workbooks out there. I've got, grit t-shirts, grit hats, grit mugs, grit pins, grit whatever. Grit, come get it. So, so with that said, guys, thanks so much. This has been a wonderful, wonderful episode with you. Continue to be gritty. Take grit with you. Make it happen. You've got what it takes. And so with that said,